Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening everyone. From housing infrastructure to the Cradle Valley Cableway, the Premier has outlined his funding wish list with the federal election just around the corner. Jeremy Rockliff's hopeful of getting much needed assistance as his government tries to mend the state's ailing finances.
Armed with a funding pitch to get key projects moving, the Premier laying out the ones he wants the next federal government to help foot the bill on.
That will stimulate investment and make it easier to do business in Tasmania.
Coming up with 11 high priority items with industry leaders. The controversial Cradle Valley Cableway among the top of the agenda, seeking $180 million for it.
We need a solution when it comes to a sustainable transport option.
We've felt that there's been a sense of inertia from both sides of federal politics around where we're going to take this forward, and we feel this next federal election is a real opportunity to commit to that future.
Boosting housing infrastructure investment, increasing payment rates for the freight equalisation scheme, and $35 million to expand seating at My State Bank Arena also on the list.
We launched our priorities yesterday and we're very pleased that the Tasmanian government has picked up on some of those initiatives.
The state government is banking on the assistance as it manages a troubling budget position. Yesterday's announcement of a public service hiring freeze met with more harsh words today.
This is the first time where they finally admitted that they have a big budget problem. I don't think the approach they're taking is the right approach. The efficiency dividend is a poor way to manage the public service.
There is no information behind this drastic announcement to cut public sector jobs. It's just straight out of the Trumpian playbook.
But according to the state's peak business group, it's a step in the right direction.
We support a fit-for-purpose public service, which is essential given the fiscal position of the state.
Tasmania's financial status is set to be a major talking point when Parliament resumes from tomorrow.
State political reporter Anthony Dodd joins us from Parliament House. And Anthony, it's set to be a big opening week for the year.
It certainly is, Kim, and while the Premier's State of the State speech is expected to draw much of tomorrow's attention, the government is expected to be pressed on several other issues. Now, Kim, 7 Tasmania News can reveal that while the Premier, or rather the government, will in fact detail more of that State of the State speech, and part of that will outline sweeping cuts to red tape and regulation, as well as detail more of the government's plan to what it describes as a sensible pathway to surplus without raising taxes as part of that address. Labor and the Greens have several priorities of their own for this year. Here's what the leaders of both parties said earlier today.
We want to see safe, secure, well-paid jobs, but I also understand people want to make sure they've got an education and health system that it's actually there when they need it.
It's been a summer of huge issues in Tasmania. Climate-fuelled wildfires, salmon deaths on our beaches. We've had stadium cost blowouts, the pokies, sweet deals.
Unrest among some independents about a review of the Integrity Commission's powers that the government has dropped over a legal issue could also cause problems for the Liberal minority government. Now, Kim, all in all, it's set to be an interesting week, one that could very well set the tone for the rest of the year in Tassie politics.
Plenty to talk about. Thank you very much there. Speaking of unwanted in Europe, a scramble is now underway to bring the Spirit of Tasmania 4 home from its berth in Scotland. But the government doesn't know when the ship will hit the high seas or where to keep it once it gets here.
12 months after it should have begun ferrying tourists and cargo into our state, the Spirit of Tasmania 4 will finally sail into Tasmanian waters. July, we're told, is when it will arrive by, having failed to find a willing lessee.
Well, it became apparent clearly that the Scottish Government were not keen at all. And given that circumstances, then there was no good proceeding.
The about-face coming days after a bizarre leak suggested the Scots would use it to house Ukrainian refugees, a claim immediately denied by the government there. What, if any, other interested parties there were remains a closely guarded secret.
We've seen them bail out a Finnish shipbuilder, we've seen them forget to build the berth, and this ridiculous idea of leasing our ship out appears to have come directly from the Premier himself.
Until it's ready to be brought home, Tasmanian taxpayers will continue to pay up to $500,000 to keep it in Leith. Only now are officials here beginning the scramble to find Plan C, a Tasmanian port or harbour where it can be kept safe and out of the way.
Once again, they've done no planning, no organisation, and they're just wasting millions of dollars.
The focus has been on ensuring that we can, if possible, get best value for taxpayer dollars in leasing the ships.
Nick Kelly, 7 Tasmanian News.
An East Coast couple who are each serving 22 years in prison for the murder of their former son-in-law have appealed the conviction in the Supreme Court in Hobart. Cedric and Nolene Jordan were found guilty of shooting Shane Barker at a Campbelltown property in 2009. Nolene Jordan's lawyer is appealing the sentence on 3 grounds, saying the conviction was unsafe and unsatisfactory in all circumstances. The couple sat together with family close by in general seating. They'll have to wait while a decision is made. Tasmania is still on track to enter the AFL in 2028, according to league boss Andrew Dillon, despite concerns over whether or not the team will have a stadium to play in. He says the issue was discussed in a meeting with Jeremy Rockcliffe last week.
They're in the middle of quite a complex planning process at the moment, but at this stage everything's on track for Tassie joining the competition in 2028, and there'll be more to come on that later in the year with list rules and the like.
It follows growing angst from other club presidents insisting the team's entry be delayed if key stadium milestones aren't reached. Ongoing mass salmon deaths have been described as the biggest in Tasmania's history, amid growing concerns about the potential environmental impact. As the state's Environment Protection Authority continues its investigations into the event, which occurred over a week ago, Andrew Wilkie says there are still many unknowns about what's triggered the event, calling for immediate action.
The EPA only is as effective as the legislation allows it to be, is only as effective as it is well resourced or not. I put this squarely at the feet of the Tasmanian government.
The state government has been contacted for comment. "28 people have been arrested in the first month of a crackdown on repeat offenders and youth crime. More than 100 charges have been laid as part of Task Force Raven. Police searches unearthing 5 firearms, including realistic airsoft weapons and gel blasters.
People getting around the community with these place just as much risk and just as much fear within our community.
Other task forces are targeting offending in the southern and western districts. A charity providing crucial services to Tasmanians experiencing homelessness has been left reeling after being targeted by heartless thieves. Shekinah House isn't sure if it can offer some services tomorrow after its gas bottles were stolen.
Those seeking a hot shower at Shekinah House may be in for cold comfort. The charity left scrambling after thieves made off with 2 gas bottles.
To come in and find that we're going to have to organise something by tomorrow so that they can have a shower, it is really disheartening.
One of the fittings was torn and shredded in the ransacking. A plumber will need to be called in to fix the damage. The crime leaving Louise Cowan baffled.
I don't get it. Like, you can go to Bunnings and get a gas bottle. There are swap and go gas bottles everywhere.
Bizarrely, a window from the newly built disabled bathroom unit was also stolen, removed entirely from its frame and spirited away.
Who needs a window? Like, maybe somebody's renovating, I don't know, but really it just seems ridiculous.
Funded entirely by donations, the $25,000 project was almost ready to open.
And now we've got this great big hole that's sharp and dangerous, and so it'll take extra time to fix that up.
While it's definitely a setback, Louise isn't letting the break-in discourage her or the mission of Shekinah House, supporting some of Launceston's most vulnerable. Community members have already stepped in to offer fresh gas bottles and security cameras.
We live in a very generous community and we're really grateful for everything everybody does to support us.
Annie Green, 7 Tasmanian News.
Hobart is set to have a new library, but this one won't be full of books, an initiative allowing residents to trial an e-bike at no charge for 2 weeks. The program is aimed at encouraging more people to use sustainable transport.
E-bikes and cargo bikes can replace your second car, which is great for the planet, it's great for congestion, and it's great for your family budget.
It essentially takes all of the effort away and makes it really easy to ride a bike.
The first round of loans will roll out in April. Lower dam levels were responsible for a drop of almost 10% in hydro generation in Tasmania last financial year. At the same time, gas generation more than tripled, according to the Tasmanian Economic Regulator's latest energy report. Luckily, energy from rooftop solar also increased threefold thanks to a sunny summer and more homes installing panels. But overall, on-island energy generation was 5% short on the previous year. Researchers are scrambling to stop the eastern quoll from becoming extinct in one of Tasmania's biggest ever conservation efforts. The plan is to build up captive breeding numbers before dispersing the species amongst declining populations on the east coast and in the Midlands.
A feast of chicken and crickets on the menu for these little eastern quolls. But those in the wild aren't so lucky. The race now on to find out why their populations are declining so quickly.
Changes in climate, to alterations in prey, to the impact of feral predators.
This fence-free haven in the Midlands housing 24 of the endangered animals. Researchers tasked with monitoring their every move day and night, with cameras and trackers attached to their tails.
The decline has been very patchy in where it's happened. Some populations have rebounded pretty well. We always say if you tell someone on North Bruny Island or in the Huon that quolls are declining, they look at you like you've gone mad.
The long-term plan is to reintroduce captive quolls back into struggling population areas like the East Coast and Midlands. While they are little, they play an important role as predators in our ecosystem.
Males weigh in at about a kilo, 1.1 kilos, and the female's a little smaller at 700 grams. But they're very capable of catching rodents and taking down a small bird.
These little guys have been extinct on the mainland for around 50 years. This World Wildlife Day proving a timely reminder to ensure the same doesn't happen here in Tasmania.
The recognition that these quolls can go back to the wild and can succeed in the wild, it just gives us a sense of hope for the future for all of the other animals that we see on a regular basis.
Ruby Cairns, 7 Tasmania News.
Australia's largest personal watercraft event has hit Tasmania's coast as Variety Queensland brings its Jet Trek fundraiser to the Apple Isle. 75 riders will spend 6 days traversing waters from Hobart to Devonport with stops along the way.
We kicked off this morning and everyone's very excited. It's a little bit chilly in the water. Everyone had all their extra gear.
The Southern Support School using funds raised by the tour to buy specialty equipment which meets the sensory needs of its students.
The equipment in this room is worth tens of thousands of dollars, but it's so important for our students to help them be calm, be regulated, and also to learn to explore their world.
The Jet Trek has raised $4.2 million since it began in 1998.
Yesterday's inaugural games for our new Senior Talent Academy sides against Sandford team Norwood won't be forgotten soon by the women's team at least. Still on a high after a last-minute goal from Lucy Thompson to edge Tassie in front and break a drought.
We knew we had our work cut out, but yeah, when Lucy got that last goal, it was pretty unreal feeling, especially after it'd been 12 years or something since we got our last win in the seniors.
No such luck for the men, handed a lesson on how tough the jump to VFL will be when the time comes, but it's a lesson they say will serve them well.
For that to be our first game and come up against a really good opposition like Norwood, yeah, I think we can only get better from here, and it was good to see what the standard's like.
The new rep teams, made up of the best from all 3 regions, have 4 more games to come this season. And Wynyard's Kyron Bacon has been put through his paces for the first time since joining his new team and moving to Italy. Warming up for the World Enduro GP, finishing 5th in his class in an Italian event. Back home, fellow Northwester Jonty Riders recovered from a mid-race setback in the new-look Australian Enduro Championship to finish 6th in the opening round in Kempsey.
Good evening. Hobart, a top of 20 degrees today. Launceston reached 25, Devonport and Burnie 21. And now that we've clicked over into March, temperatures up on average, Justo, Ouse, Smithton and Flinders Island all 24, Friendly Beaches 23, St Helens and Grove 22, Low Head and King Island tops of 20 and Strawn 18 degrees. Patchy cloud today over most of the state and the north and northwest a bit clearer as that wind blew it off to the east. All eyes are of course on Alfred producing thick cloud over the Queensland and northern New South Wales coastline. Some convective clouders over southern WA and the interior of the nation. Tomorrow, the tropical cyclone pushes further south to be just east of Brisbane. We have a high east of us and a cold front moving over the Bight. Winds here, northeast northerly at 10 to 20 knots, reaching 30 knots over the southeast. Strong wind warning there for waters between Wineglass Bay and southeast Cape. Forecast Tuesday, 28 in Hobart, a sunny day, Adventure Bay sunny and 25 degrees. Tarraleah mostly sunny and 25 as well. 25 for Launceston and partly cloudy. Same for Bridport, a possible shower though for Devonport, 23 the top. Burnie tomorrow 22, 25 for Strawn and mostly sunny. A windy day for Marrawar, 24 the maximum. St Helens a high of 23, 26 for Swansea, partly cloudy on Flinders Island, Whitemark 25. On Wednesday, fine and mostly sunny ahead of an afternoon shower over the west and south, warm over the north and east. A fine day on Thursday, sunny over the west with partly cloudy conditions elsewhere. And on Friday, a fine mostly sunny day with light winds. Partly cloudy and 29 in Perth, sunny and warm in Adelaide and Melbourne, showers for Sydney and Brisbane of course. However, further north, the sun will be shining. Bit of cloud over Hobart at 17 at the moment, 22 in Launceston and 19 right now in Devonport. And Kim, that's all from me, way over here at the weather set.
Okay, back to me now on the news set.